I'm Sam Otten, and with me is Jason Book, and in this video we're going to be talking about Superman number 38, which is the conclusion to Men of Tomorrow, the Ulysses storyline by Jeff Johns with art by John Romita Jr. So in issue 37 we had a pretty big event. Ulysses and Superman kind of were sitting and talking a lot, and then by the end of the issue all of a sudden we actually had the destruction of Ulysses' world. In his dimension, though they were able to save the humans that had been taken up. That leads us into 38, the conclusion. So, Jason, what were your thoughts on seeing how this story wrapped up?
Well, we've covered this entire arc and, it's had its ups and downs. And the first thing when I saw the cover for it, I thought, okay, doesn't look too good.
Cover was pretty bad, I
The
think.
cover is pretty weak, right? Like, the guy has done way better stuff. But anyways, as far as the story went and what happened, a lot of things happened that I thought would happen. It seems like they're kind of playing Ulysses like, because of what happened to him, possibly he could be a villain. It seems kind of interesting. I thought the resolution was kind of fast. The action scenes were good in the story. Throwing Batman in there and seeing John Romita Jr. do Batman and the Batcave was pretty cool for me as a longtime John Romita Jr. fan and a DC fan. And I liked those elements, and I thought it was a decent end to it. I didn't think it was as bad as some of the issues, but it seemed kind of quick.
Yeah, I know we talked in issue 37. I was a little worried that it was kind of going downhill, and I will say maybe because I had lowered expectations for 38, I actually felt pretty good about it. I'm like, okay, it kind of came together. Some things were tied up. I thought they were going to leave off that mysterious, like, shadowy character who's kind of looking over things and seems to kind of know about Superman and what he's doing and stuff.
Yeah.
But then just when I thought that they were like leaving that hanging without tying it up, then they actually did kind of include a page about that. Um, I thought the fight scene was actually pretty good, and I have to give John Romita Jr. a little bit of credit for like some of those fights really did have some energy to them. But overall, now that we've kind of done this whole arc, I still am not that big of a fan of John Romita Jr.'s art in this book. I know I need to check out some of his earlier stuff that you've referred me to. But I liked some of the fight scene stuff. I thought he did okay with Batman, actually. I was like, oh man, what's this going to look like with him doing Batman? But it wasn't too bad. So, I mean, for me, I think I actually came to 38 with lowered expectations, and then it ended up not being as bad as I thought. And to me, it did, it did bring the storyline to a conclusion, which is nice.
Yeah.
Because in comic books, there's always the danger that it's just going to kind of never really end, and it's always just trying to pull you into the next thing.
For sure. What did you think of this new costume? Because to me, when it was like the big reveal, it really didn't look very different at all.
Yeah, the like before the issue came out, I saw this image of it that made it look quite a bit different and worse than it actually was in the book. So like,
Exactly,
I thought it
yeah.
was cool, and we'll talk about the new power that Superman has in a second, but I thought it was cool that they sort of actually in the story explained why he would need a new costume. They didn't just like say, "Oh, here's a new one that we've stuck him in."
Yeah.
They explained it, and then when I saw it in the book, I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's just some subtle changes to like the direction of the cut in the boots, and then a little bit of the belt buckles different." What I was afraid were going to be these fingerless gloves,
Yeah.
which I thought would have been horrible. They aren't quite that. It's just that the kind of the sleeve comes down further on his hand. I still don't know that I wanted to go that down far in his hand, but it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, like, story-wise, it made sense because it's not like in the old continuity where the entire suit was indestructible. I think it's just the cape now, right?
Yeah, if you
So,
read so Grant Morrison's
yeah,
first arc on Action Comics
right,
in the New 52, he establishes that the cape is totally invulnerable. But
right.
yeah, the rest of the costume definitely is not going to withstand the new power that Superman let loose.
Yeah, so I mean, I thought, they could have done what they did, or they could have had him just throw on the t-shirt again just to kind of finish it off. I mean, it would have been a nice touch, but whatever. I didn't mind the costume. It's just, to me, it wasn't really different enough to make it seem like it's something like newsworthy. But yeah, let's talk about the power. I thought,
Yeah, super flare, is that what they're calling it?
yeah, I thought it was actually really cool. I thought
Yeah.
when how the social media and stuff, I think ruined it before the comic actually came out for me. But it's a great idea for Superman because it's taking what he already has, which is being able to absorb solar energy and do something with it different. And
Yeah.
it's like a cool small thing, but it's pretty interesting. I liked it.
Yeah, I had very much the same reaction as you. I mean, I thought it kind of made sense. It was almost like one of those
Hmm.
things where like, oh wow, why hasn't somebody thought of this before?
Yeah, totally.
Because, if his retinal cells can release that energy and they've been doing that for decades, then it seems like, if the need arises or if he was that intense that yeah, the other cells could release it too. Like what's so
Hmm.
special about the retinal cells to do it?
Yeah.
So I actually wanted to give Jeff Johns credit for that. I thought it was pretty cool. And it also has this like potential for cool storytelling after the fact because after he uses the solar flare, he actually doesn't have that solar power anymore. So he's like,
Right.
what they call quote unquote human for 24 hours.
I like that. That
It's
was
a,
a cool touch too.
yeah, it's a little bit too convenient that it's like 24 hours like, oh, one day as a human. But I
Hmm.
think it makes sense that there would be some kind of time period where he'd have to recharge.
Yeah, well, maybe Jeff Johns is saying it has somehow relates to rotations of the sun or something like that. I don't know because
Yeah,
that's
but
24 hours,
I
right?
think this is gonna. Hopefully, this is a power that can actually like go on into the future. Because I would like to see some storytellers take on that idea of something happens where he actually uses that solar flare or I think yeah super flare,
Yeah.
um, and then see what happens with him the next 24 hours.
Well,
So like, are
sure.
some villains going to try to get together to try to goad him into using the super flare, and then that's part of their plan so that they can do
Yeah.
something to him when he's weakened? I think could be pretty cool story opportunities.
Yeah, like if he was in the Arctic or something and he used it there, he'd be just a normal human trying not to freeze to death after. So
Yeah.
that could work
Yeah.
really well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another thing that we talked about when we've been following this Men of Tomorrow storyline is the Daily Planet. I think that's
Mm.
one of Jeff Johns' goals when he took over for this arc,
Yeah.
was to reestablish some Daily Planet stuff. So we saw the Daily Planet come back here. What'd you think about the Daily Planet scenes?
I thought they were really good throughout the whole arc. They kind of just were kind of a constant, even when the artwork wasn't great or anything. The characterization of the supporting cast was really nailed, and that's what makes a good Superman story. It gives you more to enjoy than
Hmm.
besides just two guys beating each other up. And I think that's going to continue on as well because there was, we were talking before about what we thought was going to happen after this arc. And this writer, Gene Wang or something his name is, he's pretty famous for doing some indie type work, is actually the new writer on Superman with John Romita Jr. still after this. So
Hmm.
he's pretty well known for doing kind of more character stuff. So they could continue in that vein quite well, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more places to go. I think Jeff Johns has gotten off to a start.
Hmm.
So I think Jeff Johns has one more issue, right? Like 39 is already in the bag, and that's Jeff
Okay,
Johns, and then I'm starting with 40.
sure.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
that
right.
sounds pretty
So
good. I mean,
cool.
like,
Well, it'll be interesting to kind of go back. I haven't actually gone back and read Tomorrow all the way from the beginning, but I look forward to doing that. It had its ups and downs,
yeah.
but overall, I mean, I would have to say I enjoyed it.
Hmm.
Ulysses had like somewhat of a predictable, like you actually predicted it before I did about Ulysses becoming this kind of like, you know, idealistic hero who then has this descent into a villain. And to
Mm,
me, that descent kind of like jerked me around a little bit. Like I didn't think it was a perfect flow.
right.
But overall, I enjoyed seeing Jeff Johns introduce that character, bring us back to the Daily Planet, bring this
Hmm.
new power to Superman. I mean, there was stuff that I enjoyed in it, even though it wasn't really the top quality.
Yeah, and there was lots of stuff at the beginning that I enjoyed as well. You know, the
Yeah.
characterizations and things. And yeah, I'm interested to see how it reads as a total one story back to back. But yeah, I mean, it was entertaining, anyways, to say the least.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, thanks for covering it with me. We'll have to look to see what's in store with Superman post Convergence.
Yeah, sounds good.